sorry. And to being a lifelong singer in a Cornish fisherman's choir. He is also a former Cornish Centre and British Classic 250 Scrambles champion, plus running his own BMX dealership in Penzance for 25 years. Will you please welcome Dave Harvey. So all the best packages come in small. Do you want to sit down, or are you all right?
Right. I'm standing up. We've often said I'm standing up.
Right. So how did you get started in motorbikes, then, Dave?
Basically, no one in my family was ever interested in motorcycles. Ever did motorcycles. I knew nothing about them really, but I think when I was a child, going to Mousehole Primary School, we had the farm that we sometimes let out for camping, etc. And one of the guys there, him and his wife, had a Triumph Thunderbird motorcycle, and he dropped me down to the school once or twice, and that was the first time I've ever been on a motorbike, and I thought, I love this. And ever since then, I really had a thing about motorcycles. And so when I was a little bit older, when I left school, I went straight to the farm, of course. And when you work on the farm, especially your father's farm, you know that you got to work all the time. And you know, when we were just in primary school, we had cows to milk. We had two milking parlours, one at the top of the farm and another on the bottom. The top had a milking machine, and the bottom one we milked the cows by hand. And my brothers, so I'm one of four of us. I got three brothers. And we all had a cow to milk by hand before we went to school. And then when we came back home, we had to milk the same cow again. And you know, so this is the way it went on. And I said, when I got to about 15, 16, I said, I said to my father, I'd like to have a motorcycle. And he said, well, if you want one, you better find the money to buy one, because I'm not buying you one. But he said, I used to keep pigs, and he said, we can have a sty, and I'll lend you some money to buy a litter of pigs, and then you can feed them and sell them on and make the money. So that's what I did to actually get money to buy a motorcycle. I sold these pigs. But my first bike was a Francis Barnett Plover road bike, and then I had a BSA C15 road bike. And knew nothing about trials or scrambles or anything like that. So I was in Blewett and Penders one day, and that's the local Penzance, Harry Pender and Doug Blewett, motorcycle dealer. I saw this second-hand Greaves Scottish trials bike, all full of mud it was, and I thought I just liked the look of it. I didn't know anything about trials. I said, well, look at that one. So I bought it for £55 and brought that home, and I thought it was full of mud. I thought I'd better find some mud to ride it in, but I knew nothing about it. And then I rode this thing around the farm a bit, and then one day I think Dave Prowse here heard that I had this motorcycle, and actually he at the time was one of the top guys certainly in Cornwall's Southwest Centre. Him and Roger White and Melroy's here somewhere. We had a lot of good guys riding, but David took me under his wing and he showed me how to ride this trials bike. We had a few trial sections, didn't we, Dave?
Oh yeah.
And
you haven't paid me yet, have you really?
No, anyway, after a while, he said, I think we can ride a trial now. So I entered a trial up at the Scard, up Blakey's area, and around Carden Hill, and I won the Novice Award the first time. And so that was it. And then I rode that bike. Well, I say I rode it. I pushed it most of the time along the road because it stopped and it had its own bit of water. But when I was actually first rode trials, I knew that I wasn't any good at footing because basically I couldn't reach the ground. So it had to be a clean or a 5. And that was it. And that's what I did. So I had virtually no 3s ever, but they were all either cleans or 5s. And as the time went on, so I had sort of less 5s and a few more cleans. Then I think I did about 18 months with that group. Then when my friend Dave Phillips, some of you might have, well, Dave has passed away now, but he had Bultaco transport, one of the first Bultacos that came in the country, and I had one as well. So when I had that, you know, I soon upgraded to expert, and that was a real game changer, you know, for myself. And I think through trials, that was probably a game changer, wasn't it? Because a lot of people at the time when I was riding, they were riding big bikes, 350s and 500s, and they were big lamps. I know some of you have done that, George, I know. But, you know, it was brilliant. So I rode that, but I rode a lot of enduros, etc. And I enjoyed them best really in like Hare and Hounds, because I like to try and get the fastest time on that, which I did on a number of occasions. And then I decided that I would want to go scrambling. I saw the grandstand television, and I saw, you know, lots of Badger and Dave Bickers and one thing and another, and I thought I'd like to look at this. So I went to Blewett and Pender's, the cycle shop, and ordered a Bultaco Matisse. So I had to trade my other bikes in for that, because at the time I couldn't afford not to. Anyway, I bought this Bultaco Matisse, and prior to that, actually, I went to a scramble, the first scramble I've ever seen at Drift, and there was Terry Cox was there, and a few other really good names, obviously the uncle David Paul, but Coxie was the number 50, and he had a white shirt and a red Triumph Matisse, and he was absolutely flying. His white shirt was billowing in the wind there, and I can see him now, it was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, when the first scramble I rode, it was a bit, it was very, very muddy, and there was one section going through it that was very, very muddy. I remember that section. We went through a big straight and then down through this muddy section, and it got deeper and deeper, and the ruts got, you know, just got deeper. People were getting stuck all the time. But Blewett and Pender, Doug Blewett and Harry Pender were sort of pulling these bikes through all this mud, and then I came around and he pulled I was, I don't know, 3rd or 4th or something like that. Something like that. He said, "Next time you come around, boy," he said, "you just head for me, and I'll let the other ones go. He said, "I'll pull you through." Anyway, I did a lap when they come around, and he just dropped everyone else, and they pulled me. And then I went around for another lap, I come back, and the next time he said, "Look, don't bother to get off the bike." He said, "Just sit on the bike and pull the clutch in and keep it going." So they picked me and the bike up now and carried me across all this mud. And I won the race, because of course everyone else was stuck in the mud. And I had the headlines in the paper, "Harvey sees off the aces." Because I got carried across his mud. Anyway, went on from there.
Yeah, I think speed's always been your thing, really, isn't it? And I think you've had some interesting tussles with Mr. Blake and Mr. Roger Neal, who should have been here. We're going to buy him a diary next year so he doesn't forget, because he got a head like a bucket anyway. But yeah, I think you had some interesting tussles with him, didn't you?
I did too. The first time I ever come across Roger was at a junior only scramble, because I was mostly Cornwall. Often I couldn't get entries in the southwest, because you had the Gazette that comes out, you had to send entry forms off, didn't you? There were so many riders that we often wouldn't accept your entry. It was full up.
He probably didn't want you up there anyway.
Well, a lot of it, actually, probably, a lot of it was due to the fact that I wasn't very good at. We had to send stamped addressed envelopes with all these things, and I put the sort of entry form in the envelope that was sent back to me. That happened to do. I don't suppose I was the only one to do that either. But that happened on numerous occasions as well. But anyway, I turned up at this junior-only scramble. I think Ross, actually, because I had the Bultaco, and that was started to seize up on numerous occasions, and Ross said you can borrow a Husqvarna that he had. I think he was riding at the Cornish, the Interceptor Scramble on his 360. He said you can borrow that, and so I went on up to this scramble, and it was just a junior-only. And in the practice, I was going around, and my brother went up with me. He said, "There's a rider out there." He said, "Riding like you, out of control." And and it turned out, I said, "Is that he was number 59?" Anyway, we just sort of felt, I think we were among the fastest around there, but we never finished anywhere because I always knew, from trials run, you had to know lines and all that, and I always pick out a line where to go. But when I come to ride, when I come into the first corner, the line was in there and I was over here somewhere. And I was out in the rough going around, bouncing around. But I always had Neither on the outside of me bouncing around even higher. Because he never had a line either. He was just flat out, But yeah, we had a time that we fell off numerous occasions. One particular occasion, we was down at Devonport Scramble. It was a 250 race, and we came over this start down over the hill. It was like 3 jumps down over the hill, and I thought I was fast down over the hill, but so neither was. Anyway, I went down over this. Both of us were together. We went off there, and I thought, well, I'd give it an extra handful. As we took off again, and neither gave it a big handful. And then we did that about 3 hours. Next, I locked our handlebars in the air, and both ended up at the bottom hill in the great heap. And I heard all this noise coming. I thought Neither was badly injured, but he was laughing his head off. He was like, "Oh, I said that went very good, wasn't it?" But that was Neither. I said, "I like this bloke." Yeah. So we were friends. We've been friends ever since.
He's a bit crazy, isn't he?
He's crazy.
And how did you come to get involved with tin mining then? I mean, this is a bit of a change from keeping pigs, isn't it?
Because knowing, Father wouldn't, he's reluctant to pay any decent wages, and I was like travelling. I was travelling up South-Western Centre, and I just wasn't getting enough money at the time, and a chap. Bloke I used to go around with drinking with, he was working at the Gaver Tin Mine at the time, and he said they're making good money up there. He said, "Why don't you come on up and get a job up there, get some real money?" And I thought, well, yeah, I'll have to really, because that was it. I only went there because of the need for more money. But when I got there, I heard about Gaver the miners upstairs, because when I first said I was going to go up St Just, up to the mine, everyone said, "St Just? They're young up there, So they were playing the whole world up that way." Anyway, I got down, I was told that, to get the best job, it was to be a machine man that was working up the face, drilling the rocks. That was the best job. Lots of other jobs, but you had to sort of prove yourself good enough to get with the job, because the machine men work as a pair of you, and you had to prove yourself. So I was sent first off to do this what we call day's pay, and we had this great round mound of rocks that we had to dump down. It's called a dump hole. Then you throw it down this hole in the ground right beside you, and it drops down about 300 feet. And anyway, this guy I was working with, his next machine man, he said, this pile will last us about 3 days. He said, "It'll take us 3 days to ship this pile." I said, "No, it won't." I said, "We'll have them done by the end of the day." He said, "No, you can't do that." He said, "Because if you do it that quick," he said, "they'll send you the next day with an even bigger pile." He said, "No." Anyway, I by the end of the day, I had that pile down there. He didn't have a lot. I got my pile down there. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to get on one of the machines. And you know, then when I finished, he said, well, you ain't working with me anymore. So anyway, when the management come around, they said, my mate said, you better tell them that you want to be a machine man. And as soon as I see anyone from management, how are you getting on, boy? They would say. I said, I want to be a machine man. And one of them said, the mine manager, he looked at me and he said, these are big heavy machines, you know. He said, can you handle one of them? And I said, well, if I can fling a 500 BSA around a scramble course, I can handle one of your machines. And in the end, I did. I got my machine man's job, and then you get a when you go on a machine. I don't know what time you got. It's another sort of total. It could turn hours. I'll keep it as quick as I can, but you know, it's a totally different world down there. And when I saw these blokes working underground, I didn't believe that people could be working underground, like thousands of feet underground, and I thought they were like Superman, yeah. And it was in the dark. We only had one of the cap light. There's no electricity underground. The machines would run off compressed air. You know, we had only got paid by the amount of ground that we broke. So every month the surveyor would come in and measure in fathoms how much ground we broke that month, and we had to buy the explosive for the mine. We had drilled all these 6-foot holes, charged them with gelignite, and we had to buy the gelignite from the mine. And when we were squared up, the cost was reckoned what the amount of ground you broke, and then they'd subtract your explosive, and you had what was left. So it was, you know, you're your own boss really, and you had to know what you're doing. And that's how it worked. And I did that job for 10 years before. I changed it, and again it was motorcycling that changed that. Because in the meantime, when I was mining, I was scrambling as well, and I won the Scottish Championship a few times. And this particular occasion, Don Smith came down to present us with a trophy. Dave can remember the time, I expect. And I read probably a couple of months later in the motorcycle news that he'd become marketing director of Amoco BMX, Amoco Mongoose. So I gave him a ring, and he said, "Oh yeah, come on up and have a look." It was up in Tentress in Kent, and this the same day that I arranged to go up there to see him. In the mine, we put this. Our mine, Geeder, is right next door to a mine called Levant Mine, which goes down underneath. It goes about 1.5 miles under the Atlantic Ocean there. But when the actual in about 1930, the bed of the sea fell in and it flooded that mine. The mine was closed. But so they went out in the 1960s. They went out with a boat and plugged the seabed with concrete. Then they, when I was down there, they started pumping all the water out. So then we broke through into Levant Mine, and then we would access all these tunnels right out under the Atlantic then. But that's the same day, the Queen was coming down to open this new sub-incline that we put down, and everyone wanted to go see it, but I was up in Tenterden up in Kent being Cornwall and Devon's first BMX dealer. So that's how I, in fact, you know, I didn't have a shop or anything. I just had the shop. I was living in Mousehole then, so I used the garage that I used to keep the bikes in to start this little shop. And Sue, my lovely wife over there, would run the shop, and we'd take repairs in, and then I had to build up new bikes sent from Mongoose started off, and then lots of other manufacturers as well. And I used to go underground at 7 o'clock in the morning and come up at about 3 in the afternoon, have a shower and come on home. And then I'd have to repair these bikes and build up new ones until about midnight. and then next day go underground. So I did both jobs for a year before the shop got busy enough that I could get out of the mine.
You ran that for 25 years, did you?
The shop, yeah, went for 25 years.
Brilliant. And did you create the BMX track at Newland?
Yeah, that's right. When we had the shop now, when we got this BMX dealership, you had to have to be successful, you had to have a track for all these kids, because we have sold all these kids originally all these bikes, and they were bunny hopping around the pavements and knocking down all women and all sorts of stuff. I was always in the paper about these kids knocking people over. So I went to the council and I said, look, these kids need somewhere to ride. Will you find us a bit of ground for us to go on? And they offered me little bits and pieces, but nothing was suitable, and they knew I was going to have it anyway. So anyway, and then I went to a meeting, and they said, of course, these bicycles have engines in them, they'd be noisy. Because I was involved in motorcycles, they thought they were going to... I said, no, in fact, one day we brought some bikes in there, didn't we? So we bought some BMX, because we weren't allowed to talk at these meetings, these council meetings. We brought these BMX bikes, and as all the councillors came in, we said, look, where's the engine there? And so, but we didn't get, and it wasn't until a millionaire builder read about us in the paper, and he phoned me up one evening and said, you can have a bit of ground, one day I'm going to build on it, but you're welcome to use this ground. And he had diggers and dumper trucks and all, and he did the whole work himself. He didn't charge a penny for it. Absolutely brilliant bloke. But we had this track which was really good, and we did at one point have the CW team from America, who had one of their riders was a chap called Pete Lonkerovitz. They call him Pistol Pete. He was the world champion, and he came down with a team of people from Americans, and they rode our track at Newland. I think they rode a track up somewhere up north, but there's only 2 tracks in the country there. So we had the world champion riding down there. It was brilliant.
Wonderful story. There was an upside to your tin mining career, wasn't there? I think did you not do a bit of modelling recently?
Well, when I was, the mine that I worked in went on until about 1990, and then due to the economics of it and the fall of the price of tin, the mine closed, and it then, over a couple of years, it became a museum, a mining museum, which is really, it's still going. It's one of the best mining museums, certainly in the country. It's absolutely brilliant. But I got involved with a group that were concerned that there was no recognition of the work and the commitment of the Cornish miner, and there was no memorial to them or anything like that. So I was on this committee for about 10 years, and it was decided at one point to have a statue built, and a number of sculptors put their idea of how it should be, and it was voted on by the general public to be this particular statue, and the guy that was doing it was from London. He was originally from London, who was living down in Lamorna, which is just the next village, the next little cove around from Mousehole, and he was the one going to do it. So anyway, I went, and he then asked me, because by this time, after selling the shop, I went to Giver, and I was now, as a museum, I became a guide, an underground guide, and used to take groups underground, and I took him underground. I didn't know he was a sculptor at the time, but he joined this group and then asked me if I would be model for this statue. But I did used to keep myself fit. I was a bit of a fitness fanatic, really. And I used to do about 150 press-ups every day when I was riding them. Anyway, yeah, it's a brilliant statue, and it's on a plinth. It stands about 15 foot tall, and it's representing the stope where I used to work in the mine, because the load runs down an angle. It's on an angle. Anyone is standing outside Gever tin mine now. It's brilliant. If you look online and put St Just Miner's statue, it's a brilliant thing. When we went to pick it up, the bronze casters in Buckinghamshire, there was in the studio, there's besides our minor statue, there was a statue that they'd just done of the war horse that was unveiled by Princess Anne there, I forget, somewhere in London. But and Colin's got a brilliant picture of me like stroking this war horse with this minor statue right beside it. But it transpires that, you know, when I was it's time to all right, is it? Yeah?
You're doing wonderfully, Dave. Yeah, you're
anyway,
brilliant for time.
But it transpires when I was talking to the guy, this Colin, when he was doing the statue, he asked me all about my family, and I obviously asked him about his family. He said, well, I had a couple of boys, he said, but I don't talk about it really very often, so I didn't pursue that at all. But later on, he did actually tell me that, I don't know if any of you have watched, it was on television, it was called White House Farm. A chap called Jeremy Bamber killed his ex-wife, his 2 children, and her parents, and it was he was the father of these boys. So it was quite a tragic story, really. And the guy is a very lovely chap, but you know, such a tragic story. But he was also telling me that you know, he obviously had to have some psychotherapy after all this, and he then became a psychotherapist himself, and working on Vietnam War veterans and all. But yeah, just an amazing chap, I would say. Right.
Well, you've kept up the tradition. Everybody's done half an hour, and you're supposed to only do 20 minutes. So, has anybody got any questions for David?
As it was a bronze statue, Dave, do you think they chose you to save money on materials?
Well, the bronze statue is actually 7'3", which is actually, if you scaled it up, is actually a third bigger than I am. And as an Irishman would say, it's a third bigger than you.
Anybody else before Dave goes off and starts to write his books? I reckon these 3 today could make a very interesting book. So I think you should crack on, Mr. Harvey, and do that. Anyway, if there's no more questions for David, as it's nearly dark, we ought to say a huge thank you, and cheers, David. Thank you very much.